Time for us to get to the point. Join the conversation and chime into the conversation with your thoughts through one of the ways that you're seeing on the screen right there. Let me go ahead and take this question and this conversation about what's going on in Greece to the Get to the Point panel this week, starting with Dr. Antony Davies, professor of economics at Duquesne University. Thanks for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me.
Aaron Leaman is a CFA. He is the CIO of Signature Financial Planning here in Pittsburgh. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Last and certainly not least, Dr. Ronald Linden. He is the director of the EU Center of Excellence and the European Studies Center at the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Linden, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Davies, I'm going to go to you with this first. What does this all mean from a political and economic sense moving forward? I know that as we speak right now, the Greek parliament is going once again to have a vote as to whether or not they're going to take more of these austerity measures, less than 7 days after the Greek folks said no and after their prime minister told the Greek people to basically vote now. Now he's coming back, hat in hand, saying, oops, my bad, maybe we should go for some of these things. What is this going to mean, not just economically if this goes through, but politically, considering the about face just less than 7 days ago?
Well, largely the ramifications fall on Greece, perhaps secondarily on Germany, who's owed much of the money. The thing to keep in mind is that Greece's economy is about the size of Massachusetts. It's not a large economy by any means. The larger problem here is the principle, the precedent. The precedent that we're starting to set is a government can be irresponsible, it can spend beyond its means, and other governments who are more wealthy will come and bail it out. And what happens with that precedent is you just set this pattern of continual overspending, continual bailouts, and at some point, people are going to say enough is enough. The problem is, the longer you wait to say that, the larger the problem becomes.
And Aaron, and that's the issue that I brought up in the starting point, is the fact that it's not so much can they figure this out from an economic standpoint, it's a matter of, as they figure this out, what does this mean politically, and how is that going to subsequently impact markets, subsequently impact policy moving forward from there?
Well, the politics are going to have a lot to play in here because everyone needs to come out of this deal looking like they got some concessions. Everyone in Greece, Cyprus, and the party there, obviously they need to look like, after they went through this referendum, that they've managed to accomplish something for the Greek people. And Europe and Angela Merkel and Germany and those countries, they need to look like they held the line and were strong as well. So there is absolutely a greater political component here to what's going on than the economic component. The economic component more than likely is going to get worked out. They're going to kick the can down the road a little bit. They're going to come to some sort of an accommodation.
And this is the third time they've done this.
Well, yeah, but that's how we typically solve these problems. You move them down the road a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and hope that they'll get better. And sometimes they do. The analogy you could probably make here in the United States is with Lehman Brothers. Had a similar size bailout, in fact, probably even a larger bailout that had to happen. But now here we are 5, 6, 7 years later, and that problem has largely been passed through the economic system, and we're no longer feeling the effects of it.
Dr. Linden, with that said, though, and again, both gentlemen have already touched upon this. I know this is your field of study as well. There are two aspects of this, and everybody seems to be focusing on the dollars and cents, or in this instance, the euros. But there's something bigger with this. There is now a dynamic in play throughout Europe that's coming into being because, number one, Greece may be the worst example of what's going on with the debt, but they're hardly the only example of that. And number two, it's not so much the fact that Greece is so big, it's the fact that they are part of the Eurozone. They are part of this entity that only came about 20 years ago, and now this is challenging the idea of whether or not this is even a good idea moving forward, especially with the rise of India, the rise of China, some of the trouble that Russia's causing again.
It's true. Of course, Europe is a major economic actor, together the second largest economy in the world after our own, and a lot depends on their success, politically as well as economically. Greece is a tiny part of that. But there's another aspect to it as well, and I hate to start off disagreeing with my fellow panelists, but you know, there's this notion that somehow the Greeks have been profligate, sitting on the beach sipping ouzo while the hardworking Germans kept them afloat. And this is a stereotype which, like most stereotypes, has a germ of truth, is mostly false, however. Greek work week is, the average Greek works 42 hours a week, the average German 35. The Greek debt to GDP ratio, as late as a couple of years ago, was actually on the low side, and Italy was much higher, for example. The Greeks are in a mess, and they have serious problems, but it is not as simple as wasteful Greeks have been spending all this European money. And remember, it was private actors who lent them all of this money.
And part of what came into being as well was the fact that we ended up having some money that Greece spent as a result of the Olympics in 2004 that also started kicking some of this off as well. When we come back from break, we're going to continue this conversation. We'll continue about where we're going from here as we observe how the Eurozone is going to deal with this. Don't go anywhere. We're talking about the crisis in Greece next here on Night Talk. Get to the point.